Hi Eagles, it's Kim, and today we're going to talk about the Masterpiece Cake case before the U.S. Supreme Court. And the decision on that case could come down as early as tomorrow, Monday, May 21st. And so I'm making this video today, and I will have it up first thing in the morning, probably a little bit before 9 a.m. SCOTUS, so U.S. Supreme Court, we call it SCOTUS for short, often puts out those decisions starting about 10 a.m. If you're really a wonk like me, you could watch www.scotusblog.com, I think. If that's not right, it's .org. Tomorrow starting around 10 a.m. to see if this decision comes down tomorrow. It could be in June, because there's Memorial Day in between when they won't do that. It could be a Monday in June, and also just FYI, there are the last week in June, they sometimes extend those days so they can get all the decisions out before they break for the summer. Historically, LGBT-related cases have been released about June 26th, and for the last several cases on June 26th. So personally, I'm guessing it's going to be June 26th, but I could be wrong. Some of the experts think that this isn't, that the court doesn't consider this that big a deal of a case, and so they may release it earlier. They often hold the really big cases for the end of June. So the Lawrence decision, the Windsor decision, the Obergefell decision, you can look these up, all came down on June 26th, so that's why I'm thinking this will be June 26th too. But just in case I'm wrong, we'll do this today. Historically, the U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed the American value that there is no constitutional right to discriminate. And they've ruled on at least one case in the past that said that you cannot use your religious beliefs to discriminate against, in this case, African American people in a restaurant setting. So there's this kind of history that says there isn't a constitutional right to discriminate. The Masterpiece Cake case out of Colorado, which, by the way, does have a state law that prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, and public accommodation. And public accommodation is places of business, so like a hotel, a restaurant, a cake baker, a bakery, a videographer, a photographer, a clothing store. All of these are public accommodations. What happened in Colorado was that a same-sex couple who'd been into this particular bakery before went in this time in order to get a wedding cake. And the baker told them, no, I will not make your wedding cake because it violates my religious beliefs. And they took the case to court, and it has made its way all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So the question before the court is there a constitutional right to discriminate? And if so, how broad is that right to discriminate? For example, does it apply only to what are now known as expressive businesses? So these are kind of businesses where there's an artistic expression as part of their business. So cake bakers, photographers, videographers would be an example of that. I'm sure there's others. The question is there a right to discriminate for any business? Is there a right to discriminate just for expressive businesses? And there's a First Amendment question there. Does that right to discriminate extend to anyone? Like, you can discriminate against anyone for any reason? Or is it that you can just discriminate against LGBT people? Is it for any reason, or just because something violates your religious beliefs? So there's a lot of questions and a lot of variation in how this decision could come down. For me personally, I'm hoping for what we would call a full win, and the court reaffirms their previous ruling that there is no constitutional right to discriminate, and that in this country, if you are open for business, you are open to everyone. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, a full loss would be there is a right to discriminate. It applies to anyone for any reason. So this would open the possibility to discriminate against people based on their race for any reason, on their religion for any reason. It would extend, to LGBT people as well, but also to anyone else. And then there's the variation in between. It could be just a right to discriminate for any business for just LGBT people, or it could be a right to discriminate only for expressive businesses, and that could be for anyone, or it could be just for LGBT people. A few other things that might happen here. The court could rule that in this particular case, there was no right to discriminate, and so that it applies really just to this couple and this bakery. They could also send the case back to the Colorado courts and have them reconsider the case based on some question. We won't know that until we actually see the decision. For me, okay, this is just me now. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm a regular old person. I just happen to do LGBT advocacy work. But for me, I keep wondering, a bakery, if they didn't want to do a cake, they don't have to say that, a cake baker doesn't have to say, well, it's against my religious beliefs. Same-sex weddings are against my religious beliefs. I will not do that. They could have said something like, I already have 8 orders that day. I just can't do another cake that day. They don't have to say, they wouldn't have to say it. Now, if there was a pattern of that, yeah, they could get taken to court on that pattern of always being too busy whenever a same-sex couple comes in. But they wouldn't have to say it. Let's just be honest, folks. Let's be real. I think, personally, that there's this element, and I've heard this from anti-gay activists before in other contexts, that there's an element of wanting to be able to shame someone, to be able to say to someone in a public space, I won't serve you because you're a same-sex couple, or I won't serve you because you're gay and it's against my religious beliefs. I truly believe there's an element of that in this kind of desire or to have a right to discriminate, but it's also the right to say it. And I don't feel good about that. I really don't. I don't feel good about how we treat each other in this country, and that I really believe we should treat each other with respect. Anyway, my personal opinion. Interestingly, just FYI, June 6th through the 24th, if you're living in central Ohio, the Tantrum Theater is putting on this play. It's called The Cake, and it actually is talking about this particular issue. Tantrum Theater is the professional theater of Ohio University. They are not a sponsor of mine. I'm not getting any kickback from them, but it is interesting. If you'd like to go see this, check out Tantrum Theater, and you could go see this play and find out a little bit more about it. Anyway, I will go live for the first time. We'll see how that goes when this decision comes down, and try to explain the impact. Now, if I go live right away, it'll mean that we haven't had time, we being the movement, had time to check out, the entire decision real closely. So that I will probably come back to you later with a video that kind of explains the full impact of the decision. But I will go live with the basics at the time the decision comes down. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like it, please hit the red subscribe button. Again, I will put this the SCOTUS blog link below, but it's www.scotusblog.com or org. That will be below, and it will be correct then. And I hope to see you later, equals. Have a good day.